Welcome back to Delay the Binge, where we explore the moments that shape us, the patterns that quietly influence our lives, and the pauses that help us choose a different path forward. I'm your host, Pam Dwyer, and one of the things I've come to believe is that none of us become who we're meant to be entirely on our own. Sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's a coach, a mentor, a friend who sees something in us before we can see it ourselves. Today's guest has spent much of his life helping others discover their potential and step into the next version of themselves. Richard Buckingham is the CEO of Ascend 21 Mentoring and Coaching, a Yale University graduate, author, speaker, and transformational leader with more than 3 decades of experience helping individuals, students, professionals, and organizations unlock growth and achieve meaningful success. He is also the author of Customer Once, Client Forever, 12 Tools for Building Lifetime Business Relationships, and has worked with organizations including American Express, Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, and Macy's, y'all. But what interests me most today isn't Richard's resume. It's the person behind it. Richard, welcome to Delay the Binge.
Oh my goodness. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, Pam. I'm as interested in learning about you and the things that you've done. That was such a generous introduction. You know, to be honest with you, when you said in the very beginning, I had an English teacher in junior high school that took an interest just like you described. I'm getting goosebumps and he was really difficult. I went to the same high school as my brothers went to, and I said, "Hey, I've got this person as a teacher." And they go, "Oh, you're in trouble."
Oh, no. Don't you
And
got to love that.
and I mean, I'll never forget. One of the first days he read the opening paragraphs of Tale of Two Cities, and I was hooked. I went to that school to play sports, and the light went on. And he passed away a couple of years ago. He and I were great friends. I don't know what was better, having him as a teacher or having him as a friend.
Aw.
And he
That's,
was phenomenal. There are 10 million people like me that he influenced. He did that. So I don't want to hijack you. I just thought that when you said
no,
that, it just reminded me of this man. And wow.
he influenced you, and that's why you do what you do.
Well, he saw something in me that I didn't see, and he believed in me when I couldn't or wasn't ready to believe in me. And I stuttered when I was a kid, and I was shy. Still shy. I still stutter. I'm still shy.
well, I haven't
But
noticed that.
he just he just was this giant of a man. He was a gentle giant, and he introduced us to all this literature and thinking and growth. Sometimes you just hang around with people because of the vibe that they give off, and you're just a better person because of it.
Yes. Yes. I realize that too, especially growing up the way I did. So I'm so happy that our listeners get to hear about you, the person behind your work.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
where are you joining us from today?
I am in a little town called Bridgewater, Virginia. I'm right outside of Harrisonburg, and I'm right on the border of Bridgewater College.
I bet that is absolutely beautiful.
It's very pretty. It's not the heart of the Shenandoah Valley. I think we're a little bit of Upper Valley, but the
Mhm.
Shenandoah Valley is really pretty, and we've enjoyed like 2 or 3 days of just smashing weather. Not too hot, not too cold, not humid.
Perfection.
Right, right. It's like this is a good thing.
Well, can we tell our listeners? I always like to bring a little something personal out before we go into your work. Like,
Sure.
what's something that's bringing you joy in this season of your life?
It's a great question. I'm working on 2 or 3 writing projects. You mentioned the Kiplinger book,
Mhm.
and I'm actually working on getting that what I call refreshed because I did it about 20 years ago. And I've gone back in and polished it up, and I've added stories, and I'm figuring out an online portal. So I've got an act. I have a real book, but I've also got an online companion to it. So just like you, I mean, I like to write and create and I like to think and it
Yes,
causes you to look at things in a different way, in a different light and figure out what reaches people.
exactly, and writing for me is therapy. I
Amen.
mean, it literally healed my soul, and
Amen.
so I do love to write as you do, and I love speaking with other authors because we all think alike.
Well, we all think alike, and I don't know about you, but I work everything out by writing. If I can't
Mhm.
figure something out, I start writing about it.
Yes, yes, and it will come to you. So I play this little game with my listeners, and I usually send out questions like, "Okay, so next week we'll be interviewing this person," and it's just a little spotlight on you. And if you think of any questions that we could ask, and this one came in, I think it was from a young person, and I'm gonna honor that question because it
Sure.
probably normally gets skipped over, but it they want me to ask, "When you think about your younger self, what kinda kid were you, and what did you think you'd be when you grew up?"
Oh, what a great question.
Yeah.
Well, I was shy and uncertain. I think the word diffident is a good word because I was trying to find my way. And I grew up in a big family and I hold older brothers. And remember, as I said, when I went to this school, I wanted to be an athlete. And all of a sudden I got introduced to Charles Dickens and I got introduced to
Yes.
all these great writers. And I'm a history nut. I read American history all the time. And there's a part of me that was finding myself. And when I was younger, I thought, okay, well, I'll become a lawyer or a big international businessman. And I think I've ended up kind of becoming like that teacher that I had. I think that I find enjoyment in helping people find their purpose. I worked with a young man who was great. He sent me a text the other day and he just said, "Thank you for helping me find my rhythm." And I thought that
Oh,
was great. That was a great way of saying it. And
so
hey, I'm sure
rewarding.
you're the same way I am. This is all transitive. This all
Mhm.
works both ways. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. And because when you help them find it, you re-find it in yourself and you find it at a different level. And like success, like builds upon like.
It really does, and that does remind me of something. My daughter is 30 now, but when she was young and in middle school, I was trying to tell her, "These girls that you're hanging out with get in trouble a lot, so be careful." And she goes, "Mom, how on earth am I supposed to shine this light you tell me I have in light places? I need to go into the dark so my light will be seen."
What a great daughter. What a great daughter. How
It stumped me. I'm like,
what a brilliant answer, right? I mean, I work with these young people and I learn things from them every day. It's
Yeah,
fun, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
if you think you know everything, what good is it?
I know, and everyone has a different perspective, especially young people, because it's so genuine
Absolutely.
and innocent. That's the only way I can describe it,
Absolutely.
and because
And
they're still learning.
And what I find was fun with working with them is meeting them where they are,
Mm,
because each young person is at a different place. I met a young lady whose mother found me on this Nextdoor app and the things that I'd written, and the father brought the daughter for an essay session, and she never met me before. Here we are at Starbucks, and her dad's two tables over, and we just start talking, and she was having writer's block, and literally 5 minutes into it, a host of ideas
boom.
come out, each idea better than the one before. And it was great.
I can so relate to that because a lot of times we'll be driving down the road and someone will just say something and it will immediately spark because I write short stories. Every Tuesday I post them and
Right.
they're literally a 2, maybe 5-minute read,
Sure.
but people love them, and so every week I think, "Oh, I'm not gonna know what to write about," but every week something happens that it's like, "Oh, that's a story."
Well, I mean, I'm a huge music buff and I love music. And Tom Petty has a great song called The Waiting. And the story goes that Roger McGuinn and Tom Petty and a couple guys were waiting to go on stage. And
Yeah.
McGuinn just says offhandedly, the waiting's the hardest part, waiting to go on stage. And from that, Petty locks it in his brain, goes out on stage, and then writes a song about it. But I think the best inspiration comes from right. I hear people say things and they phrase it in a way that makes you stop a second and look at it and go, I never thought of it that way.
And they literally, I mean, I don't know if you realize this, but even what we're doing right now, a podcast or as a speaker or even a mentor, we're literally just vessels sharing
Right.
a message, I think, that was meant to be heard. And everyone comes from a different type of background when it comes to faith. But I do feel like there's messages people need to hear that they don't aren't gonna figure out on their own. And a lot of times we can spark that in them. And it's like the teacher you were talking about. Do you think he influenced you in the way you turned out now?
Oh, absolutely. I think that he gave me the confidence to become the person that I am. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Pam, I didn't really learn to write till after college. And I was asked to do some writing and I reconnected with him. I'll never forget it because I felt uncertain. And I'll never forget he said, "Okay, you're gonna write this." He said, "Pay a nickel for every word you use." I thought that was great advice.
Oh, goodness.
Be
That's a
really
lot of
efficient with
nickels.
your writing. Right. Well, be really efficient with your writing. And he was the best email companion you could ever have. I mean, he emailed me. I saved his emails. They were brilliant. I mean, they were like works of art. And he wrote books and he and his wife would do book readings of his books. And it was just flat out inspirational. I think he had, besides my parents, I think he had an incredibly significant impact on me. I think about him every day. And the
I
questions
know,
I
yeah.
always ask him, and I said to him, he did a great class. It was called back in the day, I'm not sure if it's the right vernacular, but it was called Black Voices. But it was all about African American literature in America. And it's interesting. I went to a private school, and in the time that I went to school in the 80s, some people thought the class shouldn't be taught. Some African American people thought he shouldn't teach it. And he ended up being this wonderful, like, panacea. Like, he was able to wade into a very challenging topic and do it magnificently. But he introduced me to all these writers and Martin Luther King. And I would say to him, we'd live in this, you and I were talking in the beginning about the lack of kindness in the world. And I would always
Mhm.
say to him, how would Dr. King have handled this?
Wow.
And he would always go, with dignity. He wouldn't jump into it and think the worst of the other person. Probably a little older than you, but yeah, sometimes it's a little frustrating. I don't know if we have the kindness that we had in the world. I was reading something the other day about Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, and even though they were from competing parties, they got along swimmingly. They were good friends. They respected each other. Like, the
Mm.
kindness and the respect, if we could reinstill it in our world, I think we'd all be in a better place.
We definitely would, and instilling dignity. I mean, I grew up in a very poor situation, so we were constantly getting help from the government with
Right.
what's called here food stamps, but you would get a certain amount allotted every month based on your income, and I was always so embarrassed of it because there was shame involved with being needy, and my
Right.
mother, I just remember watching her. She asked me one time, we came out of the grocery store, and she goes, "Are you ashamed?" And I was honest. I said, "Yes, mom, I am." And she's like, "Well, how do you think I feel? I can't feed my own children." And
Right.
that was just such a huge eye opener for me. And I started looking at other people because I think people that in that situation are viewed differently
Right.
when all they
Right.
need is their dignity. How do you do that? Well, you don't just throw food or money at them. You give them some of your time with what your expertise is.
Absolutely.
They have trouble handling money. Well, guess what? Spend an hour or 2 with them saying, "Okay, this is what I've learned. Let me
Right.
help you with that." But no
Right.
one's willing to do that even now. They would rather just write a check or throw food at them on the corner there at the red light.
One of the things that I was drawn to about you is that you focus on the transformation and you
Mm.
focus on, because I think that every day all of us have the possibility to transform
Oh,
and to do things differently. And as you and I were talking earlier, I do business consulting, but the young people are so much more enjoyable and fulfilling to work with because they take right to it. They ask you questions and they implement and they try. Whereas the older people tend to be a little bit more jaundiced and they're a little bit reluctant to do it. And this is someone else's fault and it's not my fault. I mean, one of the greatest lessons I learned in my life is take responsibility. If your life
yeah.
isn't what you want, it starts with you.
I say own it and use it.
Yeah, right.
But I've that's why I really focus on the older folks because they are the ones that are most depleted. right?
Right.
I talk a lot about quiet depletion, but they have so much potential to use all their expertise and
Right.
their wisdom, but they don't. They have been ignoring their identity for so long that now they're at a place where they're bitter or angry
Right.
or they don't know who they are anymore.
Right.
And all they really need to do, I always try to remind them, the person you are is there. You just need to come back to that person. You need to find that person again.
I think that's beautiful. Being reintroduce your self is a powerful thing. You know,
Yeah,
it's funny. We do the mentoring, and it's as much interesting to find the mentors and work with the mentors because one person can't do it all. I was up a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine in New York, and he's retired. He sits on these boards, and we were talking about some young people and the energy he had. He would have been the antithesis of what you're saying. Like he wants to give back, and he wants to share, and he wants to up coach, and he wants to learn. Because
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's like what I said. You're constantly trying to figure out is what's the best way to reach this person? How can I have the most meaningful impact?
exactly. And just having the desire to do that and be aware of your own transformation story. I mean, transforming into the person who you were always meant to be, it doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't.
There's things, but the potential that you see in young people, it just makes my heart sing when I hear you say
Oh,
that
it's
because let me just tell you, there was a woman in my life when I was probably was in 3rd grade actually, but I went and spent the night at a little friend's house for the first time, and I thought everyone lived in filth like I
right,
was living, but she had a beautiful home, a mom and a dad, lots of food, and I opened my suitcase and roaches just scattered out everywhere. But
right,
I wasn't that wasn't the embarrassing part. The embarrassing part was how they reacted. They were stomping them and screaming, "Ah!" And that's when I thought, "Oh, you're not supposed to have bugs in your home."
right.
But Mrs. Kelly, the mom, I'll never forget this. She kneels down because I was crying and embarrassed,
Oh,
and she takes my face in her hands. I can still feel it, and she looks me in the eye, she said, "Don't ever let anything on the outside determine your worth, Pam." She goes, "I see a light. I see so much potential inside of you." She goes, "I can't wait to see what you do with it."
right,
And that's the
right.
first time anyone saw potential in me
Well,
and made me feel that.
that was like my teacher, and
Mhm.
then you start looking for it and you kind of rub your head, "Oh, well, he thinks I have it. Maybe there's something there."
Yeah. But people like you are, I'm not gonna say rare, but there's not a whole lot of folks that care so deeply about improving, educating, and helping people transform.
Well, you're nice to say that. So much of what I've done is based on all the failures that I've had and the things that I haven't done well. And I mean, I'm
Yes.
a guy that stuttered, as I said to you. I found myself in the public speaking field. It'd be funny. They'd be pitching me these gigs and they'd be telling me they're going to be X number of people. And they didn't realize that I wanted a smaller group.
Yeah.
The more numbers they tell me, like, oh my goodness, how am I going to talk to this number of people? But I think that so much of what I did, I mean, when I got in the business, what I couldn't sell, and then I learned to sell and then I wrote a book about it. And I find that a lot of things that I do are things that I've overcome. And I mean, I really wasn't a great student in the beginning. And it
Yes, we
just,
learn from the past. We learn from our mistakes, that's for sure. I mean,
oh,
that's
it's
my whole
transformative.
mantra is pain can be turned into purpose. It doesn't go away, whatever happened to you. It will never go away, but you can use it.
Well, I have a friend of mine from high school, and he's a doctor out on the West Coast. He's a Navy guy, Navy doctor, but he and I would do some seminars together. And he had that great. I texted him this morning about it actually, and he says is Machiavelli, but it's don't waste a good crisis. That's the opening line, which right, and then the
Love
next
that.
part of it goes because you're going to find stuff about yourself that you never knew existed, and you're going to find talents and strengths within you that are there. I think what's funny is when you're working with people, you're trying to draw out that life force in them. It's that great phrase by Carl Jung. The privilege of a lifetime is to live the life that you're meant to live, to become the person you really truly are. And it's hard in our world.
Yeah.
Money, prestige, all these trappings. It's not what it's about.
Mhm.
It's about what's on the inside. It's an inside journey.
Well, and finding it to shine it. You gotta find that light.
But it's what makes it fun, and I think people like I meet someone like you, and I can immediately I get it.
Mm.
I get it right away, and I mean, I meet people in sometimes the most fascinating of circumstances,
Yeah.
and it's interesting the connection. I rode a bus to New York 14 months ago with the woman, and she talked about her son, and I so wanted to meet her son. And he was on the cusp, and he was struggling, and he was in the basement playing video games, and I'm like, "Give me an hour with him. Let me talk to him."
Mhm. And how'd it go?
I didn't get a chance to. The
Oh,
bus got a flat tire. We just happened to be sitting next to each other on a bus, and it's funny how these conversations kinda start, but
yeah.
her son went to the same school, same high school that a young man I was mentoring to going to, so it just you just never know.
Well, and you never know how it's gonna be paid forward, right? When in any given conversation, I mean, if people don't see their own potential, they usually feel like they're limited by their circumstance.
Right.
And then I know that's how I grew up, my circumstances, I believed the lies that I was telling myself.
See, I think I've heard 4 books in what you've said, and that's beautiful, and there's that great Marianne Williamson quote where, "It isn't our darkness that scares us, it's really our light." I have friends of
Right.
mine, Pam, that are just my feeling of working with young people is they're Ferraris, and they need the owner's manual, and some of them are way out of control. I get it, I
Mm,
was out of control for a while.
yeah.
And because they've got so much talent
Mm,
that it just blinds them. So it's like, how do you teach a 15-year-old a safari? How do you give him the owner's manual? And really what you're trying to do is you're not trying to give him the manual, you're trying to get him to see the DNA inside of him or her.
yes.
And it's
Yes.
fun because when you get there, they hit this level of peace. I'll watch these people come in and they come in as one person and then everything's all done and they walk out as a different person and they're more grounded and they're quieter. I worked with a young lady and she took her essay. First of all, I feel like with the high school kids, their essays are their personal anthems. They're their
Yeah.
walk up songs. Don't turn in your rough draft. Get serious about this. Go deep. And this young
Mhm.
lady wrote a great paper and we took and we changed one word. And in changing one word, the essay opened up and blossomed. And you know what? She opened up and blossomed. So I'm a business guy and I want to market my business. And I'm
Yeah.
very, as you can probably tell, you and I are, I'm sure, the same way. I'm very much about truth. I never want to over exaggerate. So I called her and I said, I'm trying to put some stuff together. Was it helpful? She's like, it's incredibly helpful. And it almost kind of surprised me. And then I said, well, what was the most helpful? And she said, it was the questions that you asked. And I said, well, could you write them down and send them to me? Because I forgot what I asked.
I need to recycle those.
Well, I need to recycle 'em, but part of it is that you're meeting them where they are and you kind of pull out like you heard me talk about Tom Petty. Well, I love to talk to young people about music.
Yeah.
I work with this one football player, oh, strapping star of the team, had a business on the side, and he was struggling with a paper on Joseph Conrad. And it was a C minus, it was a D paper. And we tried to go through and I put the paper aside. I said, tell me your paper. And the first iteration was a C plus, but it was the second iteration that went to like a B minus.
Oh,
And to look at the look in his face, and he was just like, and he looks at me, he says, Richard, writing is speaking, and I'm writing is speaking. That's it.
it is. We all
Well,
have stories to tell yet.
amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And I think it's one of these beautiful things of literally helping people find their voice.
Oh, I
The
love giving
football
people a
player
voice. Yes.
that I mentioned that I met the woman on the bus and her son went to the same school. Well, I've worked with him on 3 or 4 little projects. I've known him since he was in junior high school. Great young man. And his dad said, "Hey, look, he wants to apply for scholarships. Can you help him with the essay?" And I met him and you always wonder what they're going to come up with.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about Pam. he talks about being the backup to the punt returner. The punt returner gets hurt, and he has to go in a night game on a cold October night and field his first punt under the lights. And I'm like, what a great essay topic. Like, this is right.
Yeah.
And I'm
You could
just,
glean all kind of stuff out of that.
whoa, the essay's writing itself. And I'm watching him. And again, you see the energy increase. You see the confidence. You see the belief that, and I say to these young people, you're writing better essays at your age than I did when I was at your age. I had a tough time putting words together. And again, like I said, I didn't learn to write until really after. I'm still learning to write. I read
Myself.
all the books. I read Stephen King's on writing. I love George Orwell wrote a great essay, Politics in the English Language. It's not long, but it's a beautiful primer on writing well. I think it's fun. It's a craft. I'm not wild about AI. I mean, I like the writing because within the writing comes the energy and the transformational forces within the writing, I think.
It really is. And it's not human. It cannot tell my story. I use AI for just organizing and structuring things.
Right.
Because that's what I struggle with in a long story. But it's my story.
Right.
There's no way it would know about roaches and things like that, and bugs coming out of a suitcase, so to speak.
And it can't catch that ethos. It can't capture what happened in that moment. And your story, to the X number of people that listen to it, it transforms other people.
Yes, because they see themselves in
idea.
it. They see themselves in the
Correct.
story.
And in lots of different ways.
Yes. Yes.
And
They
not
could be
just-
Mrs. Kelly, they could be
Right.
me, but whatever.
But the beauty of it is her getting down and putting her hands, the transformation of the energy from her hands to your cheek, and the sincerity that she felt.
I mean, it still makes me tear up. It was such a special, profound moment.
But that's the essence of a transformation. Is I think they're constantly ongoing. They're a beautiful thing. The transformational force. This young man that learned about the writing, I hope he took it out and applied it. I mean, the young man that said to me, "Hey, you help me find my rhythm." He called me the other night and said, "Hey, Richard, I've shared 3 of your ideas with 3 other people, and they're grooving." And I'm like, "That's brilliant."
Brilliant.
Because what I always tell people that I quote unquote mentor, because we're mentoring each other, but I always say, "Hey, pass it on. Find someone to mentor."
Yes.
Because it's an empowering thing, and it teaches you to listen, and it teaches you to figure out, okay, how am I going to approach Rick? How can I get this across to him?
Well, and I have to ask you, because a lot of times I wonder myself, I am so inquisitive and curious because of the way I grew up, right? Because that's the only way I could learn. I wasn't being influenced at all at home. I had no one to learn from. So I had to look outside my environment to decide, okay, I like what that person, like Mac from the store, I like what he did, and I want to do that. So how do I do that? But then there's people that grew up perfectly normal, amazing family life. And sometimes I think that they are limited in their belief of themselves for some reason.
I think that's beautiful. And it goes back to the Machiavellian quote, "Don't waste a good crisis," because you can't find out if you live your life in this parameter rather than in this parameter, where you really have to figure out who you really are and how deep you can go. I mean, the greatest thing in the world is seeing the untapped potential and unleashing it. The saddest thing in the world is seeing the potential not go anywhere, that it's just not being tapped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes you're not the person to tap it and the event isn't, and you just, you never know with people.
I noticed working with young people in my career that all I had to do was give them permission to fail. Believe it or not, permission to fail. And it's like this huge relief, this weight off of them because they're so afraid of disappointing parents.
I think that's brilliant. I love that. I say to people a lot of times, I'm not your dad, but I can say things that your dad might say that you wouldn't hear from him, but you'd hear from me. And then I think a lot of what I do is give people permission to follow what they want to do and to follow their dreams. And oh, by the way, if you're going to do that, here are 3 things you might want to try. do
Yeah.
this, and this. And all of a sudden, they walk out of the conversation like they're floating on air. Now,
Yes.
does it mean that they get what they want on the first couple phone calls? Of course not. It's a sign marker. It's a road post on the way. Lewis and Clark. You're trying to get out west. You're trying to go inward and find out what you really are all about.
Yeah, and do you notice the difference? With younger people, you can give them permission to fail, but with older people that have lived a lot of life, they have failed, but they are either ignoring it or not using it or
Absolutely.
feeling so much shame about it. It's really hindering
Absolutely.
them as well. So it's almost like
So
you gotta give them permission all over again.
I didn't ask you if you worked with Steve's group up in New York. I'm an older businessman, and it's very rare in my life that someone tells me something and actually does it. When I signed up with Steve, everybody goes, Richard, you're not going to be happy. You have high standards. Well, I called Steve halfway through and I said, bravo. He said, bravo, what? And I'm like, you're exactly what you said. Every interaction I've had with your group has been uplifting. It's been his team, Tyrone, Mary Kate, the things they say. But I want to say this. When I did the business book, the first chapter is continual improvement. It's all about building on your failure and not being afraid of it. I've
Yeah.
been talking about this for 30 years. I don't know if you've met Lauren or not with his team or
Yes.
not, but I'm talking to Lauren about it. And Lauren goes, I hum out 4 bars, and she goes, oh, I get it. Failure is a path to success. I fall out of the chair. Right. I fall out
Yes.
of the chair. She's like, what's up? I'm like, I've been doing this for 30 years and no one put it as concisely as that. So you give people, not only you give them the permission to fail.
Oh my gosh, Richard, you're gonna love this. When my son was in 3rd grade, the first day of school, and the teacher called me into the classroom. I thought, what has my son done? So I went in and she goes, I just wanted to meet you in person because I asked the class today, how do we learn? And your son raised his hand and he said, by messing up.
Some of my heroes, so I love songs, I love literature, and I love history. And I read about Lincoln and I read about Kennedy. Both of their presidencies initially were disasters.
Yeah.
Lincoln didn't expect to be elected a second term. And there's a great line from Kennedy when they said they're saving the info to write a book about it. And John Fitzgerald Kennedy says, who wants to read a book about disasters? What are we if we don't learn from the things that we've stumbled with or failed with?
Yes, it would be sad. And young people have taught me one thing. They have so much courage, Richard. They are probably the bravest
Right,
humans on the earth. And
right.
it's not just from ignorance or innocence. It's they aren't afraid to try things.
I think, isn't that great? Because
Yes,
you literally never know.
I know. But business leaders, what I've learned is they're full of fear and shame and they're afraid to be vulnerable. All the things that's happened to them in their past life, they haven't been taught how to deal with failure.
Remember, I'm a stutterer, and I don't even know how I got into public speaking. I think people said to me, hey, you seem to do pretty well sales. Come and talk to our people. So I start doing this. Why don't I get a feedback form? It made me
Mhm.
more comfortable. I'm going to address your company. I'm going to give you a feedback form, and we're going to go over it in the very beginning. I'm saying, look, I'm here to talk to you about these 3 topics. But by the way, pull this out because I want to get your feedback. And I
Yeah.
was convinced that they were going to tell me all these things that I was doing wrong with my speaking. Like that was somehow it made it easier to go out and do it, knowing that I've asked them and given them permission to come back to me. That's not what came back to me. What came back to me were brilliant ideas. Hey, Richard, why don't you talk about this, this? And I wrote chapters in the book based on what people wrote back to me. And it's
Wow.
amazing that when you meet people at a respectful level, the level they come back to you with. And I read everything that they wrote. This was back right in the cusp of being able to submit things electronically. But I took the feedback so seriously and everything I do, like whenever I finish with a young person, I always ask them, what did you hear?
Mhm.
What what and sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes it's not what you would expect, but it's always something along an uplifting line of I'm going to do something different. I shouldn't be so afraid of this.
Yes, or what do you wish we would hear from you? I interviewed a woman once about listening as a skill, and there's a lot to be said about tell me more. When you say that
Isn't
to
it?
a young person, they're like, "Oh, she's listening."
Well, I mean, I am not a political guy. I don't understand the politics thing. You know, when Charlie Kirk passed away, the New York Times had a pretty good write-up on different testimonials. But I remember one young lady wrote and said he would come and talk to us and listen to us.
Listen, yes.
And I thought that was a really generous, would that we all like, okay, so I've got this business book. There's a feedback chapter. I suggest having a feedback officer at your company. I suggest feedback Fridays. I suggest just take the time to listen to people. Just go ahead
Mhm.
and plop yourself down and say, I want to understand how you experience what we do. And
Yeah.
it's amazing because in the beginning, your expression, they're, huh? And then when you start taking notes and asking questions, then the floodgates open. I worked for a client once with a client in Texas, and I went down to people in Texas, and they gave me 15 pages of the most brilliant data. The company was leaving $20 million on the table. It was
Oh.
brilliant. Right. It was brilliant. And all it is just asking a better question.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. And I find that people that listen are the ones that grow the most. They really are. They can transform their whole lives.
I think there are two levels to that. There's the demonstrated willingness to want to listen.
Mhm.
And this is kind of a crazy world we're in. My whole summary of speakers and everything, everybody's talking. Who's listening?
Well,
Who's
and
really listening?
the greatest writers in the world write for the reader.
And that goes down to so many levels just for the structure and the format of the book. Have they made it
Yeah.
reader friendly? And I think one of the best things, remember these feedback forms, I thought they were going to tell me how to improve my speaking. And don't get me wrong, there were suggestions about that, but the overwhelming suggestions were different ways to present the material. And one of the things I heard really early on was tell more stories. Tell more stories.
People
So
love it.
when I wrote the business book, I put true stories in the business book.
Mhm.
And then I got to the point that I really just call them business parables. And you know, in the beginning, like I wrote this book 20 years ago, so different time, and I wrote a lot of things about me. Well, I've taken me in the rewrite, I've taken me completely out of it. And the story, right, they're about other people. That was
Yes.
fun. And you
Um,
find yourself being a court reporter. You're watching these circumstances and you're transcribing it.
the tribe or caveman family that's sitting around the fire telling the stories about how they escaped a dinosaur that day.
Right. Right.
We
Right.
learn, we tell stories. That's how we communicate.
I think Abraham Lincoln was as effective as he was because he told stories. I mean, Jesus Christ taught parables. I mean,
Yes.
I can remember reading on the prodigal son. I think it was Charles Dickens or John Updike said it's the greatest short story ever written. I found
Mm.
that fascinating.
I love that.
Right. You read these things years later and you see different things in it you never saw before.
Mhm. Exactly. And I do want to bring up a point of how some people you try to help that have issues with transforming or becoming aware for more clarity, or they don't want to change because they're afraid they're not going to recognize that person.
And it's back to the Marianne Williamson that they're just afraid of who they really can become.
Who are they without it? They want the issue to stay. They're not even aware that they're keeping this issue in their life alive because who are they without it?
There's a great show. Have you read a lot on Joseph Campbell, Follow Your Bliss? I'll send you the link to it. It's about
Yeah.
an hour and 20 minutes and it's on YouTube. And it's absolutely brilliant because it's a whole bunch of Joseph Campbell acolytes talking about the transformations in their life. And remember, the gist isn't multimillionaire. A lot of them became that. The gist is finding your bliss, finding what you're really meant to do. And a guy tells a story about the golden Buddha. I won't tell it to you. You probably
I
I'll
love the
send you the
golden
link to
Buddha.
it. Well, his is I think his I've heard three different versions of it, but I think his is like one of the best versions of it. But again, it's back to the Machiavellian that you have something that goes wrong, and rather than become paralyzed by it, you overcome it and you become a different person. I mean, it's the whole hero's journey.
That was inside them all along.
Love it, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
all It's
So
all
awesome.
encoded in your DNA.
Mhm.
Spent all this time going outward. We're on our phones. We do all this external things, but it's inside of us. And it's like, okay, how do we tap into that? And how do we experience? I tell a lot of people, get up in the morning and just nod at your mirror. Yes, I have this talent. Yes, I know how to do this. I will be able to accomplish this. And then watch how your day goes. And one of the signs I think too, I don't know if you follow this, but it's the everyday events that can shape us if we allow them to. Something
Yeah.
bad happens and we deny it and push it away, and we don't realize that embracing it is really going to be a life-changing venture.
Exactly. And not giving your energy to rejecting it. Your
That is.
energy needs to be put into using it. That's energy.
Did you ever read The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer?
No, I've heard of
Okay,
that
so
though.
so well, there's a book called Untethered. That was I can't remember what the order is. I read Untethered, I didn't like it. My friend Duran says, "Richard, you really need to read The Surrender Experiment." And I'm like, "Duran, I don't want to read it." So sure enough, I spend an hour and I order and I read it, and it's a great book. And the guy basically says yes to everything that happens in his life. And he ends up selling his software company for like billions of dollars. That's not why you read the book. It's the peace of mind that he finds, but it's that willingness to accept and acknowledge and not push away the things that happen. When someone wants to move into his house, he doesn't say no. He always tries to figure out a way to say yes. I think that's incredibly empowering.
It really is. And you have such an outlook on things. I'm sure that's why Ascend 21. Can you tell us what inspired you and how you created Ascend 21? What is
By
that
all my failures. It's just seeing that look in people's face when they get it. And I love talking to kids about their essays, their high school kids. It's their anthem, it's their walk-up song. I love talking about a piece of music to help them find their cadence and their rhythm. I didn't realize when I was a kid, listening to music was one of the best positive habits I could have because it was self-soothing. It taught me about cadences and rhythm. It taught me about diction. It taught me about rhyming. Like I learned so many valuable things from that. I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I'm at my creative best, it's usually when I've been involved with music. I've done something outside of, me trying to figure out a business plan isn't the way to do it. Me going to the gym, me playing golf. I get my best thoughts when I'm not working. And they come at me like they come at me like in threes. And I've got to stop what I'm doing and write it down. I mentioned to you before we got on this air, I told you that I went up and saw Lyle Lovett and John Hyatt in New York, and they're both accomplished songwriters in their own right, and they traded off songs. But at the end of the night, Pam, they did a rousing 5-verse stanza of "This Land Is Your Land." And
Oh,
when I was
wow.
a kid, right, when I'm a kid in second grade at Burning Tree Elementary School, we learned and sang that song. What a great Woody Guthrie song. And I find myself as an older adult up at Capitol Theater of New York, Portchester, singing the verses about private property with such enthusiasm and gusto because it's as pertinent today as it was when I sang it in the early 70s. And when I guess Woody wrote it, I don't know, in the 20s, I guess. I guess
Yeah.
Irving Berlin had written God Bless America. And then Woody Guthrie said, well, Irving, allow me to give you my version of what the song should be.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's powerful.
incredible. If you've got a plan or growth in mind, do you expect it to be uncomfortable at first? And if so, how do you deal with that discomfort?
Oh, I love that question. I think what I've done is having lumbered and struggled and collapsed through the first 2 or 3 disasters, I've learned now I don't run out and embrace the next disaster, but I'm a lot more accepting of it. And I'm a
Yeah.
lot more recognizing that I'm going to learn something from this. And in my better moments, I see things lining up. I can see it lining up and I can see that the lesson is going to be this. And all along the way, you're trying to help other people
Yeah.
because it's good karma. It's the right thing to do. I have a question for you. I don't know if you like music as much as I do, but if you had a playlist for what you do, what would be the songs? What would be the songs that would highlight positive transformation?
Okay. It could be anything from Queen. I,
Tell me more about that. I love
I
that.
I
Tell
don't
me
even
more.
know why, or Prince, believe it or not.
I
You
love
know who
Prince.
Prince is?
I love Prince.
I mean, some of them are kind of risque, but I don't care. It's the
Oh,
music behind it. It's just
le
so uplifting and energizing.
Let's Go Crazy. He
Yes.
wrote Manic Monday. I
Yep.
mean, one of my thoughts is I hope there's stages in heaven, and I hope I get a chance to see Prince, I get to see Michael Jackson
Well,
because
Bohemian Rhapsody is
or
just like
Freddie
I'll put
Mercury. Well,
Bohemian yeah. I'll put that on in a heartbeat if I'm feeling down or not energetic. I'll put Bohemian
see that
Rhapsody on.
I think that's so important, and I spend my time making playlists. Steve and the team were working on a thing called Shoot Higher,
Yeah.
and I don't think I told him this, but within a day or two of the development of that, I started a playlist about songs that I think um, personify that,
Yeah.
and songs that put you in that mindset.
I'm telling you, they have been such an influence on me
Oh, I
because
think they're
they help me in a lot of ways, but I've been approached by many agencies that are just focused on the package that you purchase, how much you invest. And Sweet Steve, I'll call him Sweet Steve. I hope he's listening to this. There came a moment where I said, okay, I'm not producing fruit from all of these efforts, so I cannot utilize you anymore. And he's like, I
right.
don't care. I believe in your message and I'm going
Yeah.
to help you as much
Well,
as I can. And they
I, I
still do. They believe in my work.
I got interviewed by Steve, and he's a New Yorker. He's great, and it's the transformative effect of his team. I think about Tyrone. We're talking about the Shoot Higher thing, and again, I'm in the woods. I'm stumbling. I'm falling, and then he says, "Well, Richard, isn't the question you want to ask, what are you not doing?"
Yes.
Brilliant. I said the
Brilliant.
same thing because again, it's in our DNA. You and I know it. You and I know when we get up.
Yeah.
I've got 2 books and a screenplay I need to finish, and
Yes.
there's enough of it written that it needs to get done. Whether
Mhm.
it can get rejected, and that's fine, but there's something inside of me that keeps. I'll be out doing something. Boom, the line comes to me. You need
Yeah.
to say it this way. A friend of my mother passed away, and she called me up, and well, the better version. I'm in a Lululemon store in Charlottesville, and this young lady gave me this line that I called her back to say, "Can I use this in the screenplay?" Because it was just so good. It was so good. It stopped me in my tracks,
Wow.
and it just was great. I think that we all need that because I think we need to raise our game. I think every day, complacencies. Someone asked me a while ago, "How are you? Do you get complacent?" Not at all. Like I've dug into the rewriting of the Kiplinger book. Kiplinger book got good reviews on Amazon, not a ton, but they all were high-star reviews.
Mhm.
But I went in and said, "No, that this could be a lot better." Let me give you a quick story. There's a golfer. I won't name the golfer, but he came out highly touted. He won a prestigious tournament. He won breaking a bunch of records, and he asked for the video from the event. This was back before, again, you could stream and do all this, but he got the video and he watched it, and he started to recognize all the things that he wasn't doing. So he got the video to be like a rah-rah session, and it ended up at the end of the video, he called the coach up that he was working with, and he says, "There are 15 things that I want to do better." And I
Wow.
think that, and he went on a tear, by the way, the next 3 or 4 years, he just broke records that no one, only now are people like, they're nibbling at the edge of the cookie, but they may not get to where he was with it. And I think that that's the way I want to be. I never, again, that's why I ask these young people, it's funny. I don't know if you do this, Pam, but I asked them on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective. And the football player's like 8.5. I love it. Right. He puts the 6.7, like he puts a number to it. But you're always trying to figure out, how can I reach these people?
I always try starting out when I'm just meeting a client and just trying to get a feel for who they are and how we're going to communicate. I'll ask them, "What does success mean for you
Great.
today? I want you to define tell me what success looks like." And then I ask them, they'll tell me, and then I'll say, "Well, how is that different from what success meant 20 years ago?"
Right. Thank you. That's a great question. And I think I'm going to ask that when I'm with the young people and they're working on their essay. Usually it's like, can you get a topic sentence? Like what I say to them is, if they give you an essay, on a Friday, write the bloody first sentence on Friday. You're probably like I am. I do the best writing when I'm not writing because when the minute the sentence is in my head, then the rest of it comes. But if you wait till Wednesday night on a Thursday delivery date, you're never going to get the paper. You turn in the rough draft.
I tell them, time passes anyway, you might as well use it.
Use it and use it well, but just get something down on paper.
Yeah, there's so many good questions to get young people to think, like, what are you still learning? What are you still becoming? I love the word becoming so much.
One of the books that I want to write is there's going to be another salacious book that comes out on John Kennedy, but I think there's a beautiful book to be written on his becoming. And
Mm,
it's interesting. He was very
yeah,
close with Robert Frost. Robert Frost was the first poet to read it at an inauguration. And he came in the Oval Office and he said to Kennedy, he said, be more Irish than Harvard, which would be the title of the book that I want to do. Because I think you're nodding. How brilliant is that? And
that's brilliant.
I think that John
Lovely.
Kennedy's life was a series of undoing kind of what his family had done and the way his father was, and he was finding his own stride, as painful as it was. And I have to be honest with you, I think there's a beautiful story to be told between him and his wife, because I think at the end they had really it became almost an awkward arranged marriage to a love story. And I don't think I'm exaggerating in saying that. I read a book last summer that chapter and verse bore that out. But it was his process. To your point, becoming is a great verb. And I think it's something that we never stop doing.
You don't ever wanna be finished. You know how we're always
Weird.
striving for the summit? But really, should we strive for that? Let's just never be done.
Correct. There's always something. If you're looking inside, you're always going to be guided to something more,
Mhm.
something greater.
There's so many wonderful nuggets, I can't wait. People are gonna listen to this episode over and over.
Well, you're
Um,
nice to say that.
if s
I learned a ton from you.
if someone listening today feel stuck or discouraged or unsure of their future, what would you want them to know? How could they get started today with
Find their walk up anthem.
transformation?
Find their walk up anthem. And if they can't find it, email me and I'll help them find it. Put it on and dance. That's one thing I'd have them do. The second thing I'd have them do is sit in front of their mirror in the morning. The first thing is just nod to the universe. Accept. Don't push away. Accept that it's going to come to you. I love it. It's the guy that climbed Mount Everest. Edmund Hillary said, the minute I announced to the world I want to climb that mountain, all the forces I needed were coming to my aid. Okay. Well, I think that's, if you want to write a great paper, send me the forces for me to write a great paper. Oh, Richard's sitting at Starbucks. Let me talk to Richard. He's one of a number of mentors that can get me to where I want to go. Just like when the young man said to me, writing is speaking, writing is speaking. And
Yes.
nowadays you can dictate your opening line into your phone.
Yes.
I'll do that. I'll be out playing golf or something, and I'll slip over and boom, boom, boom. This is what I want to try to say. And I'll have it there and I'll save it. So I have it.
Well, can you tell our listeners how we can find your work? How can we find you out there?
Well, there's going to be kind of a relaunch. So you're so nice to ask that. The fastest way to get me is just my email right now, Richard
Mhm.
underscore Buckingham at iCloud.com, just like it sounds. And within the next month, there'll be a revised landing page. The business book will probably come out in the fall. I'll probably create the companion portals to the business book. I'll probably have that up in like about a month. You can
Oh,
go on there and it's kind of like a corresponding chapter. And I'm big on feedback and I love back and forth. And I love people writing and saying, I didn't like that story, but this story I liked. And when the woman wrote on the feedback form, hey, teach me to tear down the walls of client distrust, I turned that into building client rapport. But I had someone tell me, work on the distrust part of it. And I will do that in the
yes.
portal part.
Well, and if there's one thing that you hope people remember from this conversation, and I'm gonna share what I'm gonna remember, but what would it be?
Well, it sounds really corny, but find your passion.
Oh,
Your, and it's inside of you. Don't
mhm.
don't don't get robbed of life. Life's like an amusement park. You want to ride every ride and decide what's the best one to go back and ride again. But I would be curious what yours is.
Well, one of the things I loved about our conversation is the reminder that growth doesn't happen in isolation, believe it or not. Often the people who change our lives are the ones who see possibility before we do. And sometimes the greatest gift we can give another person is helping them recognize their own potential.
To borrow a word out of Meatloaf, you took the words right out of my mouth. And I think if every day each of us lets someone else see their potential or have them know that they're recognized, I think you can give someone a $20 tip, or you can say, hey, I watched you deal with that disgruntled customer. You did a great job. You at 20 taught me how I could do that differently. And the look on their face, wow, someone noticed me.
Yeah. And tell me more. I'm telling everyone listening, try it. If someone's talking to you, do not say anything about yourself. You just say, oh, tell me more. And they'll feel very heard. Yeah, it works. It's very powerful, just like kindness. But so you don't have to become someone entirely different, everybody. You simply have to become who you were created to be.
Beautiful.
Just know all of Richard's information is going to be in the show notes. And so you can find him that way in case you're not writing anything down, which none of us do. Because we're usually driving, right?
And if you're struggling with a walk-up song, reach out to me. We'll find one.
Well, you're truly amazing. What a blessing to the world you are. What a light.
I don't know if I think back at you. Your story about the mother and that's beautiful.
Yes, I had very few moments like that.
But I can feel it. I still feel it.
Mm-hmm. And that's it's honoring her by telling of her deeds. There's so many more in my book. You can read the book maybe. I don't know. Oh, that's right. I'm going to send you a signed copy.
I can't wait.
All right, everybody. Pause, choose, build momentum, and finish stronger than you started. Thank you, Richard. We'll see you next time.
Absolute pleasure.
We'll see you next time on Delay the Binge. See y'all next week.